Safe travels, that's what people say, right? When you're going away on a trip. Well, keeping you and your kids safe on a Disney cruise. That's today on the DIS Unlimited's DCL Show. Hello and welcome to the DIS Unlimited's DCL Show. I'm Chris Forbeck, one of the agents at Dreams Unlimited Travel. And thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate it. We often talk about news items right at the top. Well, our show today is mostly about one of the biggest news items to hit Disney Cruise Line in a long time. You may have heard in case you didn't hear, well, a kid fell off the Disney Dream on Sunday, June 29th. The father then jumped off the ship after his daughter. The most important fact we do know is both are fine. But in light of this incident, we're going to talk about Disney Cruise Line safety. We get a lot of questions about it, so we're going to tell you about it today. Let me introduce my amazing, awesome colleagues, Dreams Unlimited travel agent and my work wife, Elaine Edwards. Hello, Elaine.
Hi, friends.
And Dreams Unlimited travel agent in the face of Disney's Spanish website, See Disney, Federico Argar. Hello, Federico.
Hello. How are you?
And the DIS and DIS Unlimited, Hannah Anderson. Hannah is also a Dreams Unlimited travel agent, and we should note, hello, Hannah. Sorry, let me say that first.
Hello.
And we should note that Hannah has a adorable son, Owen, who is 3 years old. We got to travel with him earlier this year. Lucky us. And she has a story on DCLFan.com. It is headlined, Worried About Cruising with Kids? Here's How to Stay Safe. So she's going to talk a little bit about her thoughts on this incident and just safety generally. So thank you so much for being here, Hannah. And of course, we have our amazing producer, Jimmy Valdez. Thank you, Jimmy, for always doing this and making us look pretty.
Hi, thank you.
Great to have everyone here. Thank you all. And we've got a lot to talk about. But first, I'd love to remind you that this show, along with everything we do at the DIS Unlimited, DCL Fan, UO Fan, all of it brought to you by Dreams Unlimited Travel. We're experts at helping you plan a magical Disney cruise, a visit to an amazing Disney theme park, your Universal adventure, Epic Universe. Ooh, so awesome. Even other cruise lines. There's no additional cost to book with Dreams Unlimited Travel. None. But we're going to give you insights about your Disney cruise ship or a Disney trip, the Universal parks. We're going to let you know what you need to know so you can have the best time possible. And by booking your cruise with Dreams Unlimited Travel, you get a shipboard credit of up to $1,000, depending on the price of your cruise. And I always hear people say, nothing's for free. But this is one of these cases where you get free money to spend on board and it costs you not a dime. The best way to get started, dreamsunlimitedtravel.com. And one other note, I always like saying this by way of transparency. Elaine, Federico, and I are all Dreams Unlimited travel agents. This is our job. This is what we do. But the reason we do it is we love Disney. We love Disney Cruise Line, and we want you to have the best time possible. Our job, both here on this podcast and as agents, is to give you information so you can make the best decisions for you and your family. We hope you book with Dreams. It allows us to do this and do that and make magic happen. But if you don't, we still hope you have an amazing trip. I said we're going to mostly look at this news, but Elaine, I wanted to quickly touch on the fact that we are getting a lot of questions about new itineraries coming. And we are expecting Disney Cruise Line has said their new itinerary is coming late 2026 and early 2027, coming out soon. You've been getting lots of message, right?
Oh, yeah. I have been having requests for late 2026, I think, for the last year. A lot of people really want to travel. That's the kind of year that that it's the Halloween on the High Seas cruises. It's the Christmas cruise, the very maritime cruises. And it's just a really great, fun time to travel. And a lot of people travel during that time. And they usually book up pretty quickly. And so a lot of people like to plan ahead because generally if they're going on that Christmas cruise, a lot of time they like to take the whole family with them and they've got multiple staterooms. So we are taping this as of July 3rd and we are assuming within the next few days, we're probably going to hear something. And so you can always, if that is what you are wanting, definitely just reach out to your Dreams Unlimited travel agent. Let them know to put you on their wait list. They'll shoot you an email as soon as we hear an announcement. and we'll get you booked, because I'm telling you, release day, and everybody else on this podcast can agree with me that release day is very, 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 very hectic, and phone lines can be hours long. But Dreams Unlimited Travel works together as a team to get all of our agents' clients booked, and we work very hard to do that as quickly as possible. So take the stress off of you. Just let us take care of it for you.
Yep. And just a couple of reminders about these early. When they first release, they get released in tranches. So Pearl Castaway Club members go first, then Platinum, then Gold, then Silver, and then they're open to everybody. So they'll have release dates. We'll post everything on DCLfan.com. We will also have a podcast for you when we need some time to look at what's new in here and what are our kind of dream cruises, and make sense of it. So give us a day or so to do that, but we'll also have a podcast up around the new itineraries. We always say the best time to book is early, because you get not only best pricing, but you get best options in terms of which stateroom you want. But also, we always get people who want that 5:45 dining time. If that's something that's essential to you, book early. And we did a podcast about this earlier, but the cost of putting down your deposit all of a sudden went from 20 to 10%. So you only have to put 10% down on most itineraries, and then you pay in full date will be 3 or 4 months before you cruise. So you can do it for less and pay over time if you want. So a lot of opportunities. We will let you know as soon as it's out, and we're excited too. So it'll be interesting. Will Galveston be on a permanent spot? We don't know. We'll see. Lots of stuff coming. Enough of that, all that. So with that, let's dive in. Oops, sorry, bad pun. Let's talk about safety. And at the top, I wanted to make sure we know what we're doing here. I mentioned this incident on the Disney Dream. Our goal here is to provide you with information and insight. We want you to have an amazing trip. So as we're recording this, there are a lot of facts that we just don't know. And some of those facts have actually changed from what we first heard, and we've learned more information. Some very important facts that we do know. On Sunday, June 29th, as the Disney Dream was heading back to Fort Lauderdale, a child fell off the Disney Dream, and her father went in after her. Whew, can you imagine? Both the young girl and the father are fine, thank goodness. One of the really important essential facts is that by all accounts, the Disney Cruise Line did really an exceptional job. They acted quickly. And we're going to talk about this. One of the reasons why I cruise Disney Cruise Line is I trust these people, the crew. They will make the best decisions. They put safety as a paramount item on. They really think about this. And again, by all accounts, the crew really seems to have been just amazing. We believe the young girl fell off deck 4. That's the deck on the Dream and Fantasy. This is the deck that has the running track on it as shuffleboard, just so you can kind of put yourself in that space. Now, there is all kinds of speculation going on, and we're going to leave that to the interwebs. If you want to participate in that, I personally am going to wait for the facts and see what happens. I'm sure we'll hear something. But aside from all that, we get a lot of questions about safety, and these are ships, and they are in the water. And it's not only questions about that deck 4, but verandas and pools and a lot of other items, getting on and off ships and all those kinds of things. So we are going to use this as a jumping point to, no, sorry, I keep doing that. We're going to use that as a starting point to talk about safety broadly. And Hannah, I wanted to bring you in because you did this great story, and I hope people check it out. But at least I've been on a lot of cruises. One of the reasons why I specifically cruise on Disney Cruise Line is because I do feel safe. There are not only life jackets on the top deck for the kids' pools, but there are lifeguards, usually 2 lifeguards watching all the time. They're watching. I get nervous around pools, but they're watching. At every step, Disney is thinking about safety in my view. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think even if maybe you've never been on a Disney cruise, but if you've been to Walt Disney World or Disneyland, you know that Disney does everything to not only take care of the details, but to also take care of you. Safety is always our number one priority. So I think if you're curious about cruising, or maybe taking your family for the first time, I think Disney is a great way to do it because, I would say most of the clients I book on a Disney cruise have some experience with another Disney destination. So you're familiar with the product, you're familiar with the experience. And so it's just kind of taking that out to sea, which can be intimidating for a lot of people, especially if you have younger kids. I, as you mentioned, have a 3-year-old, and toddlers move really quick. All of a sudden, they're not walking and then they're running. And
sometimes they're unpredictable. They're unpredictable. They go in directions you don't
absolutely.
always, right? They're
I can
trying to
bet on
track
them
them.
being unpredictable. And I will tell you just one quick story because you mentioned the pools and the life vests. My son is 3, but he's tall, so he's kind of becoming more adventurous and can do a little, a few more things. And most recently, back in March, he did the Mickey slide on the Disney Fantasy, and he was tall enough to do it. He was wearing a life vest, but he got to the bottom and just laid there, just kind of panicked. And it was the first time I'd really seen. I was right there, but the lifeguard immediately picked him up, actually gave him a hug and was like, "Are you okay?" Above and beyond. And so that for me is just one of many kind of safety stories I've experienced personally as a parent on Disney Cruise Line, but just made me feel like, okay, not only are you guys, I was right there, so I could have jumped in, but they beat me to it. And then on top of that, they made sure that he felt okay and safe. It was, he was taken care of, but he left that situation not feeling like, oh, I can never do the Mickey slide again. It's okay.
And Elaine, I think it's really, really, because sometimes we worry about things that aren't the big concerns. I worry about swimming pools, but the swimming pools are dangerous places. Let's talk about some facts. As far as I know, and I did a bunch of searching, I can't find another incident like this on a Disney ship ever before. This is not a regular occurrence. By and large, Disney cruise ships are a very safe place. And they do talk about some of the measures like the Veranda, which has, multiple locks. They've thought of things to keep kids safe, to keep all of us safe.
This is very true. I mean, Disney knows that this is intended for families, and they take a lot of precautions. As you mentioned, if you have a Veranda stateroom, I have a lot of guests that they do have young kids, and they are weary of booking a Veranda stateroom. And just so you know, the Verandas have a multi-lock system. They've got one lock that's all the way at the very top of the door, but it's you have to even have the door handle in a specific position to even be able to unlock it. It's a two-handed, I get stuck in it sometimes.
I was going to say that I have a hard
You
time.
need a PhD. You need a PhD to open those doors.
Yeah. So then once you actually get it open, when you get outside, I mean, the verandas are not short by any means. I mean, they are pretty much between waist and chest high on most adults. And the bottom half of them is either covered in a white wall or at least plexiglass, if that. We do always, we've said this before when we had the Cruising with Kids show with Hannah earlier, that it's always good to establish those rules with your family, that if you have a child, that you don't go out on the veranda without an adult with you. I know a lot of people that like to, most of the verandas do have 2 chairs and a little table at them. I do know that there are some people that will take all of that and either push it back, pull it into their stateroom, or even ask their stateroom host to remove them altogether, just as another precaution so that you don't have a child climbing on them. Yeah, it's just, but they do definitely work very, very, very hard as far as all of that goes.
Federico, what do you tell folks when I'm working with folks in selecting their stateroom? If they have young kids and they're doing a veranda, I tend to say, hey, don't do where the kids can't see below, because that encourages them to climb up. If they have glass below, there's no real reason for them to climb because they can see out. So there's things like that are are there other things that you help folks think about as they're planning the trip, even before they get on board?
I think that you're on vacation and the goal is that you have a good time and that you relax. And if you, by any chance, are gonna feel worried during the whole trip because something may happen, just try to avoid that by all means. And the good thing
Right.
with Disney Cruise Line is that I just stayed at a deluxe ocean view stateroom, which doesn't have a veranda, and those are great too. And you get a beautiful view of the ocean, and you don't feel like you're in a super close space. So if you think that you're gonna feel safer and you're gonna be enjoying your time with your family, book one of those. You don't have to do a veranda and think that you're going to miss the experience of the cruise if you don't have those. So I think it's just a matter of thinking clearly what works best for you and your family, and know that all the options available for you to do on a Disney cruise are going to be worth. You're not missing out if you don't have a veranda in this special case. But also, if you have like special needs, or if you know that your kid doesn't know how to, or you don't, any specific thing that you think that maybe I should avoid doing that, you're gonna find other experiences in any of the ships that are going to make your trip awesome, and you're not going to be missing out because you don't have that. So I think you just, know your family, know your kids, and know yourself, and talk to your agents to see, okay, I don't like, going to this specific place. What else can I do? And we're going to be able to tell you all the different options that you have.
And Federico mentioned the ocean view staterooms that have, particularly the ones that have the big portal windows. Those are an awesome place. They kind of have, you can almost sit in them. And it's
Yes,
glass.
you
You're
can.
perfectly safe.
Mhm.
And for my son, when we had a one of those, he loved just sitting there and watching the world go by. It was a lovely place. Well, he also took he took Lightning McQueen and would race them in there. So it was a very entertaining space for him. Hannah, I think one of the things, and you mentioned it in the story, and we talked about it on our kids show a couple months ago. Have a conversation with your kids, right? This is part of the thing. And with my son, I always told him, hey, the veranda space, this is awesome. We're very lucky to have it, but this can be very dangerous. And I had him look down and see how far it was. And I said, if you fall, it's very dangerous. I don't want to scare you, but now, I'm lucky I don't have a kid that pushes those boundaries, but I think it's important. So I only allowed him out there when there were other adults. And I said, if I see you out there without an adult, then it's a closed off. We are not going out there again. It's done. But I think having a conversation with your kid about the safety aspects is really an important thing to do before you travel. And even maybe during like the muster drill, when they're getting kind of antsy, say, hey, remember about this is why we're here, to just make that present to them.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's definitely a big part of it, because what I've learned with my son being 3 and being a first-time parent, kids are incredibly perceptive. And when you think they're not listening, they absolutely are. And so I think having those conversations, continue through your cruise, but especially before you cruise, if they haven't cruised before, or maybe they haven't cruised in a while, kids want to know what's going on. And I think if they have some sort of ownership of it and understanding, they're, more likely to understand the concept of, no, we only go out on the veranda if, one of the parents or somebody else is out there, or, we sit on the chairs. We do not stand on the chairs. Things like that you may think are common sense, or maybe they're too young to understand. Just say it anyways, and you'll be surprised what resonates with your child. Another tool that I really love is it's called the My Cruise Activity Book. It's a free resource from Disney Cruise Line. You can download it, you can print it. Read it before your cruise, bring it with you. And it goes over a lot of these safety things that we're going to mention, like as you said, the muster drill and kind of what to expect, and getting familiar with the crew members on board. That the cast members have a name tag with their name on it, and to introduce yourself to those cast members. Like, you get used to the idea that you do have a stateroom host, that you do have the same servers at dinner every night, just so that they know that it is a safe space, but also, for whatever reason, the inevitable or hopefully not happens. You turn around and you're like, where is, he was right here. And hopefully
Right.
It's just 2 feet in the other direction. But if for some reason they do need to talk to a cast member, that's not as intimidating of a process. They know what to do. So I think that's a great resource, even if you don't print it out and use it, just as a parent, just to kind of review it and go, because for me, I love cruising. I actually am one of those people that feels comforted by the ocean. And so I don't think about these things a lot of times. Like, I am, even as a parent, it's not really until you get out there on the veranda and you go, oh, okay, yeah, we need to sit down, don't get near the railing type thing. So I think it's just a good reminder for parents too, of what to expect.
And really the only 2 spaces that are kind of those open decks, 3 spaces. One is verandas, that deck 4, which is the running deck, or, where it is open space. And then up on the top decks, the pool deck basically is closed in. So that's fairly safe. But those are the 3 areas where I think as parents, we need to be more present in how we think about those spaces, and just like reminders, right? Those are the only 3 that I really came up with. Are there others that I'm forgetting?
No, I agree with exactly what you said and what Hannah said. I do the same thing with my kids. Anytime that we travel, before we ever left home, while we were at our destination, and at the start of every morning, I always said to them, if you need help, even if you just get separated from mom and dad, whatever, but if you need help, you look for somebody that works here. And how do you know if somebody works here? And they would always reply back, because they have a name tag on. That makes something very, very, very easy, especially because they're all wearing different kinds of uniforms. That name tag makes a really big thing. And then we had a secondary, that if you can't find somebody with a name tag, look for a mom. And if you know that they're a mom, because they're going to have small kids with them. So look for a mom with kids, because that mom, she's going to help you. She's going to help you real fast. So we have that secondary rule as well. And it is the thing, is that, we're on vacation too. Parents, we are tired.
That's right.
We are tired. Right. We are worn out. We don't want to think about everything else that is going on in life. And we want a break, and we want relaxation too. And there is a balance that we have to find, as far as being on guard 24/7 about our kids and being able to relax. The great thing about Disney Cruise Line is they have these kids clubs. You can take your kids to these kids clubs, and that is when you get your time that you can relax. And, whether that is hanging out at the pool, or, going to the bar and having a drink, or going to the spa or whatever, utilize those kids clubs, because they are a safe place that your kids can be. And that you don't have to worry about watching them 24/7, while you as well get your break and have a good time.
One of the things that I always did with my kid, and this was more at Disney World, and now he's old, I don't need to worry about it as much, but on his Magic Band, I would take a Sharpie and write my phone number on the back. And tell him, hey, if you get lost, find somebody with the name tag on your Magic Band, let them know that they can call me, or on the ship, text me, or however they want to, but they can get in touch with me. And I always made sure he knew, if you can't find me, it means I also can't find you. You are not alone. I'm looking for you. We will find each other. I am not going away. I'm not leaving you. So I didn't want him to get freaked out that, oh my goodness, daddy doesn't care where I am. So those kinds of things. Hannah, Elaine mentioned the kids clubs, and one of the questions that I often hear folks say is, "Oh, can anyone go in pick up kids?" Like these, outside of open house time when parents are in with their kids, you can't, Joe Public can't go into the kids clubs. They're kid spaces, right?
Right, absolutely. And that's another good conversation to have with your kids pre-cruising is the process of getting checked in and out, especially the Oceaneers Club, because it is a set process every time. There are no exceptions. It is literally closed off with a gate, almost like you would find at the theme parks. And they provide your child with a magic band to use during the cruise, specifically for the kids club, but they do have to tap in their magic band. They essentially check in. They go in, it's a secured space. The door closes behind them. It's open so you can see it, but think of it kind of like a turnstile gate. They go in, they have these very cool, which I'm sure if you've cruised on Disney before, you know about them. You wash your hands, you put your hands in, it's an automatic hand washer. But I'll tell you that even not a safety thing, that is one of those things I kind of forgot about because I love them and it's so cool. Well, for a 3-year-old, that can be kind of scary, putting your hands in a hand washing machine.
Right.
He's never experienced that before. So I think you mentioned open houses is a great way to kind of introduce your child to that process because it is going to be the same every time. And the cast members there will, of course, walk you through it the first time you check in as well. Also, when you go to pick up your kid, you designate a code word. So you have to confirm your child's name. You have to give them the code word. They then pull it up in the system. And now with your security photos, they actually look. So, I mean, and you can see it on the computer, like they pull up your child, there's your child's photo, and then they pull you up and then there is your photo. So it's really like a 2-point verification. And again, it's secured. Depending on your child's age, they walk them to the front, they come out the gate closes behind them. So there really is no chance of somebody else coming in and picking up your child or your child being able to leave or escape, so to speak. Also, that magic band that they give you on the cruise is a great resource because let's say, your child does get lost for a minute. They can scan that band and find out, who your child is, your stateroom number, who the parents are, adults, whatever. So I've actually seen that happen on a cruise ship. We were in the atrium. It was the first night and it was busy. It was in between dinner times and, typical. It was, you're in a crowd, your kid was right there, you turn around and they're not there. And in reality, the mom was not far away at all. But it was scary. It was their first time cruising. It was the first night of the cruise. And, thankfully, to Elaine's point, being a mom, I saw a kid and you can tell when a kid is lost, they have that look on their face. And so, thankfully we took them over to a cast member and she did have on a magic band from the Oceaneers Club, and they were going to scan that information. Of course, right about that time, here comes the mom. Just to your point, Chris, she was looking for her, and they were, both upset and wanted to find each other. So, thankfully, there are the cast members know what they're doing, and there's multiple ways for them to find out who your child is if your child isn't able to, say their stateroom number or things like that.
And Hannah, I'm going to stay with you because one of the things you mentioned in the story is it's a reminder of how important the Disney Cruise Line Navigator app is, because that may be the initial way that they reach out to you, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So the initial way that they're going to reach out to you is through the chat feature on the Disney Cruise Line app. So, and that's a great tool. You'll definitely want that for that communication with the Oceaneer Club. But let's say you aren't using Wi-Fi or cellular at sea on your cruise, and maybe you're traveling with, multiple parents. I have found with my child that we tend to we're not together as a family unit the entire time. It's if your kid isn't in the Oceaneers Club, we like to trade off. Okay, you go do the splash pad for an hour. I'm going to go sit by the pool, and then we'll trade off. You need a way to communicate with each other and say, hey, I'll meet you buy the ice cream. And so you can use the Navigator app to chat within the app for free. So it's a great resource for parents too.
And I have to say, traveling with you guys, you and your husband and Owen on the Disney Fantasy, you guys did a lovely job of that. So kudos. That's sometimes can be hard to coordinate, and you guys just did a lovely job of it.
Well,
Federico, the other point of this is getting off the ship. Your kid is not going to leave without somebody that they know, and they're very strict about that. You have to check out, and they're watching.
Yeah, but I want to point something out before talking about the getting off board process, which is super easy, but it's safety as well. And I had a conversation once with a friend who were not in a Disney Cruise Line ship, but just like in a public space, and I was like, "Be careful, your kid is going to fall." And she was like, "Don't worry, there's tons of adults here that can, they're going to be looking out for him." And I was like, "Girl, no, I decided not to have kids for a reason, and it is not my responsibility to look out for." Of course, if I see a situation where any human being is security is threatened or in risk, I'm gonna try to help, but it's not my responsibility. And certainly not my responsibility to look for the safety of your kids. And I don't even think that is Disney's responsibility to do that. At the end of the day, we are all responsible for our own safety and our family's safety. Just use common sense and don't rely on other people to look out for your kids just because they are adults or just because they are close to them. Because some of us made the decision not to have kids, and they are on a Disney cruise, and we want to have a good time and we want to relax. For example, it's important to respect the areas that, just as you were talking, we cannot enter the kids club unless it's an open house. Well, kids cannot enter the adults only area at any point. It doesn't matter if you're their parent, you're with your kids. They shouldn't be there. And there's a reason why. And, there's not enough people looking out for their safety. And the pools are not as looked up as the other ones. So respect the rules and just keep in mind that at the end of the day, yes, you should be able to have fun and enjoy your time, but it's your responsibility at the end of the day. And about the getting off the ship, you have to present in most cases in all cases your key to the work card, which is the identification, your stateroom key, but it also have your face picture, and in some specific places you're going to have to show your ID, your passport. Now, I don't know if that's the case for when you go off board with kids. I never experienced that, but I don't know if it is like that. I don't think there's any case where someone is like, "Oh, I'm going to take this kid with me to Castaway Cay."
So the rule with kids is they cannot leave the ship without somebody in that stateroom. Now, you can allow permission to, let's say you're traveling with parents or grandparents or something like that, you can give them permission, the kids, to leave with somebody else. It's not complex. Like sometimes we organize staterooms that somebody else will be traveling. One of the kids will be staying with grandparents. And you can allow that permission. It's not complex. You do need to do it. You can both do it online when you do online check-in. You can also do it when you get on the ship. Make sure they have that so it doesn't become complex when you actually have to get off the ship. But the child is not leaving without somebody. So when you get off the ship, I always click mine first, and then my son will click his, because if he clicks out first, they're going to say, "Okay, well, who are you with?" So it's very, very, they make very, very sure of that. Elaine, did I get all that right?
Yes, and I was actually just sitting here biting at the bit to say exactly what you said, because we have so many guests that are traveling, either they're traveling with other families or relatives, or like you said, they've got one of their kids sharing a room with grandma. Well, the thing that you need to remember is, in Disney Cruise Line's eyes, grandma is the responsible party for that child, not mom and dad. So you
Right.
really need to make sure that you fill out all of those cross-reference forms with everybody that you're traveling with, both for getting off the ship and for, if you wish, for the kids clubs as well. That way, if Aunt Jill says she's going to go get all 3 staterooms worth of kids from the kids clubs and take them to go ride the aqueduct and get ice cream, then she has permission to do that. So just make sure, anybody that you're traveling with, that everybody is cross-referenced. Don't assume that because your child is not in the same stateroom as you that you're going to be able to take them off the ship, because you're not.
Mm.
Yeah.
Right.
I wanted to touch on pools quickly, and whoever wants to chime in here, just as a starting point, there are lifeguards on all the family pools, all of them. And those lifeguards are, and that, by the way, that's not true on all ships. On Disney ships, it's true on all of the family pools. In fact, there is a lifeguard in the splash pad. So they're watching all the time, and I'm nervous, particularly before my kid could swim. I was nervous about that. They watch closer than I do, and I am meticulous about it. They are really, really amazing about doing that. Hannah, do you want to? And they also have life vests on, so if your kid isn't able to swim, there are life vests there. There are also various depths of pools. So if your kid isn't comfortable, but they're in the one that comes up to my, not even my knees, less than that. There's a lifeguard watching that pool. So your kids are being watched. I still watch my kid, but
Yes.
it feels very safe to me, right, Hannah?
Yeah, absolutely. The other thing about the pools and the splash pad, even on deck, is that they are not, even though it's an open deck, they're not very easily accessible. So it would be very hard for your child to run and suddenly be in the pool. Like even the main pool is, you have to kind of step up a deck, and there's chairs and there's a lifeguard. The splash pad usually has like a monitored entrance, as you mentioned, with a lifeguard. So that's another resource as well. And then at Castaway Key and Lookout Key, you're going to the beach. So now you're swimming in the ocean potentially. There are lifeguards there as well. And both of those islands, the water is relatively calm, which is nice. So you're not having to, it's always like you do need to be aware of things like, the riptide and water safety. But in general, the water is pretty calm in both of those locations. And then, just to Fetty's point, I think that is a great perspective. And I even said in my article, like, Disney is safe, but ultimately you are the parent, and that responsibility falls on you and no one else. So, one of my tips for cruising with little kids is have your support system, like, having a spouse, a partner, but even better, like grandparents, aunts, uncles. It takes a village. So I think that's a great resource as well for families. And that's true for any vacation. Like, look, if you've traveled with young kids anywhere, it's not always easy. So I think a lot of these things also apply to traveling to Walt Disney World and to Disneyland, other Disney destinations as well. But Disney does a great job of ensuring the pools are safe. They're also not very deep. So they even have a pool on each of the ships that is more of like a splash pool. So even if your kids aren't strong swimmers, they can still sit in the water and splash around, of course, as long as they're potty trained.
The point that I always stress, and I think we did it in the kids episode, but your kids better than anybody else. And so if your kid's a climber, think about that as through all the steps. And are they going to listen to you when you set those boundaries, or are they very adventuresome? And think about all those things. You know your kid better than anybody else, and so keep that in mind as you're planning your trip. Elaine, anything we're forgetting? Anything else we need to touch on?
I just have a courtesy thing: is don't talk to the lifeguards. They are
Doing a job.
Anything that you say to them, you are distracting them from doing their job.
Amen.
And they really are not there to be talking to you. They're not there to be directing you to where the pizza is. Do not talk to the lifeguards. Don't conversate about anything, because they need to be 1000% focused on every single body in that pool. And you are distracting them if you talk to them. If you need to ask a cast member a question, there are lots of cast members on the pool deck that are not white lifeguards. They're usually wearing a white shirt and shorts or white pants, and they would love to help you find a pool chair or towels or the pizza or whatever, but do not talk to the lifeguards.
Yeah. It's an awesome point. Hannah, any other points we want to cover? Or I think we've done a good job of covering the big pain points, so to make sure everyone stays safe. But anything else we've forgotten?
I think I just want to say, if you are curious about cruising with your kids or your family, and maybe you have not done that in the past, like reach out to us and ask those questions that maybe you think is silly or above and beyond, because Chris, to your point, no one knows your child like you, but at the end of the day, like, is both a parent or even just as a travel agent, we've heard these questions before. And I love personally to hear these questions, because as a first-time parent, there are things that I haven't thought of. But the great thing is we have resources both at our travel agency and with Disney that we can get those answers for you. Because ultimately we want to ensure that you have the best vacation, and peace of mind is a huge part of that. Like, if you are concerned or anxious about something, it's going to be very hard to relax and enjoy the vacation the way that you should. So, I think Federico talked about this, but if you are nervous about the Veranda, that's okay. There are fantastic other stateroom options. Don't push it or do things that are outside your comfort level, and don't be afraid to ask your travel agent the weird questions, or the questions that you think we don't have an answer for. Maybe we don't, but I promise we will get the answer, and we'll get an official answer that you can trust.
Federico, final thoughts?
Yeah, about what Hannah just said, I think that sometimes we get scared about asking questions or saying things, and most of the times it's just more normal than we think. I had a client once that told me that she was nervous about leaving her kids in the kids club because she wasn't ready, and she felt like she's going to be not enjoying her time when they were there. And she was like, "Oh, I'm sorry to be, so weird." And I was like, "No, girl, I will be exactly the same. Maybe that's the reason why I don't have kids. I wouldn't do it." So yeah, I wouldn't do it.
Good for you.
So just use common sense, follow the rules, and just enjoy your time in your vacation. And if there's something that you don't feel comfortable doing, don't do it. And if there's something that you want to do, but is against the rules or is against common sense, don't do it, because the rules are there for a reason. And maybe your family is not going to be in risk, but maybe you're going to put other people in risk, and that's not the goal.
I was talking to a friend of mine on as we were prepping for this, and telling her we cruised a couple years ago, and she had very young kids at the time, and I told her we were going to talk about safety, and she said, when I was on the Disney, her kid was 2 years old at the time, and she said he was in the pool and he couldn't swim yet in the Mickey pool, so it was safe. And she goes, I was watching him the whole time, but I had just come off a very stressful time at work. And for a moment I dozed off and I woke up and was scared, but she had that reassurance that the lifeguards were there. And so, all, particularly parents, we're doing the best we can. Really, that's not always
Yeah.
perfect. I wish I was a perfect parent. I'm not. We're doing the best we can. Be smart about how you do it. Be thoughtful. I'm always cautious about common sense because some people's sense is not that common. But be smart about and think about things and just be present in that space. And again, you know your kids better than anyone else. So keep them safe and you'll be fine. Again, myth versus reality. Sometimes we love to be scared by the myths. This is not a huge issue, but you do need to be thoughtful about it. So with that, we're going to wrap this up. If you have questions for us, we'd love to hear from you. You can put them on the YouTube or wherever. You can send us notes. We'd love to hear if we missed something, let us know. And of course, as always, we'd love for you to book with Dreams Unlimited Travel. Literally, it helps pay for what we're doing right now. And I'll tell you, I was a Dreams client before I was a Dreams agent. So I understand the value of it. Best place to start is dreamsunlimitedtravel.com. You'll select your cruise from the first page and your itinerary. After that, on the second page, there's a pull-down menu of all of the Dreams agents. All of them are so awesome. You can select one or you don't have to. You can choose Elaine, Federico, or Hannah. That's the best way to reach out to any of us is doing that rather than sending us an email. But in case somebody does want to reach out to you, Elaine, how can they do that?
My email is Elaine, it's ELAINE at dreamsunlimitedtravel.com.
Awesome. Federico, how can people reach you?
My email is federico at dreamsunlimitedtravel.com. Federico is FEDERICO at dreamsunlimitedtravel.
It just says it. So I just want him to keep saying his name. My goodness, it's gorgeous. Hannah, how can people get in touch with you?
You'll never guess. It's Hannah at dreamsunlimitedtravel.com, and I spell it like Hannah Banana, and it's a palindrome, so it's same spell backwards.
There
You
you
guys
go.
can figure
Starts
that
with
out.
an H,
Yeah.
starts with an H, ends with an H.
Yeah,
and don't forget to
double everything.
Don't forget to check out Hannah's story on DCLFan.com. It's worth a read. So, and if you want to reach me, Chris V. It's not quite as lovely as Federico, but Chris V at dreamsunlimitedtravel.com. And yes, there is a Chris. So Chris V at dreamsunlimitedtravel.com. I'm also on social media. Yensid Travel on most platforms. Yensid is the sorcerer and sorcerer's apprentice. So there you go. And it's Disney spelled backwards. There's your Disney trivia. Thanks for joining us. And a special thanks always to our producer, Jimmy Valdez. He makes us look so pretty. And we really appreciate you being here. Depending on where you're watching or you're listening to us, please like, subscribe, leave us a review. It really does help. There's these algorithms out there and they do their magic and it really helps people find do that. We did find out that the podcast wasn't on the podcast sites wasn't getting updated. So we're getting that fixed. So it'll be up there and we'll be all updated. And if you have topics for us, you can leave those on the YouTube site. I check that all the time. Also our DCL fan Facebook page where you can find whole bunches of people discussing Disney Cruise Line, or just send me an email, chrisv at dreamsunlimitedtravel.com. We'd love to hear from you. Somebody suggested that we do a show on back-to-backs. So we're going to do that coming up on a back-to-back cruise. How cool would that be? With that, I'm going to say it. Safe travels, and we'll see you real soon. Thanks.